Hello, I'm Nick Tyrone, the neoliberal centrist dad, and I'm here for another chat with you guys. And one of the things I wanted to cover today was something that's sort of on my mind. I get a lot of emails about it. I get a lot of messaging about it. As some of you will know, neoliberal centrist dad, the Substack, was for about 3 years called This Week in Brexit Land. And there's lots of people who are very pro-European, very anti-Brexit, and they're like, why did you stop writing This Week in Brexit Land? What's with this new thing, etc. I'd like to explain it to you also just in the broader terms of where we are, I think, with the Brexit discussion. And so the big reason I stopped writing it is, one, I sort of stopped having things to say about Brexit because nothing was really moving on and the whole debate was stale. Just for the record, I still think that leaving the EU was a terrible mistake, and I would like to hope that we could rejoin one day. But we are in a situation where that is politically so difficult, and I'll explain a little bit about that. But first of all, one of the things I changed. I mean, I thought when I started the Substack in 2021 that I was really building a community. I was really trying to build towards something both outside of Westminster, but also within Westminster. It would sort of open the discussion up a little bit. And I have to say that I really felt like in the 3 years, I built a good following. That's great. I really enjoyed writing it, but actually nothing went further. And I think part of the problem is that the whole way it's discussed in Westminster is actually very different from the way it is in the country. I think if you go outside Westminster, it's amazing how much people will say, oh, geez, I really don't like Brexit. Ooh, it was a mistake. You hear that from farmers. You hear that from business people. But in Westminster, I think there's this idea that it's done and no one can talk about it. I mean, within the Conservative Party, even the people who are the most pro-European that you can think of now won't touch the thing with a barge pole. It's nowhere, even amongst the sort of one nation-y types, no one would even talk about something like the customs union. And actually, even the Lib Dems, you look at, they're supposed to be the most pro-European. Even they won't go further than a customs union, which is amazing because that's basically Theresa May's deal. They're basically arguing for Theresa May, what Theresa May wanted in 2017, or 2018, I guess. Which is astounding, really, when you think about it. And, I mean, one of the things to address here as well about rejoining or not rejoining, I mean, I really stick my neck out on this all the time. And one of the funny things I get online, particularly on Twitter, or I guess it's called X now, is, well, geez, you must be getting a lot of money to do this. Obviously, your career depends on you sticking to this line that you thought Brexit was a terrible mistake. Actually, the reverse is completely the case. If I tomorrow decided, you know what, I've had enough of this, I'm going to come out as pro-Brexit, that would help my career immensely. That would be an instant career boost for me. It would make life so much easier within so many of the channels in which I operate. I don't do that because that's not what I believe. And that's not what I think. But in terms of career, that is certainly the case. And I just feel like, why is that? Why are we... You look at the polls, right? And polling tells us consistently that about 60% of the population of Great Britain, the voters of Great Britain, would like to rejoin. And even when you introduce things like, well, we'd have to take the euro, etc., you still have a majority in some polls, or at the very least, it's very close, which is astounding when you consider that no one in Westminster wants to talk about it. But I really got to a point, having done the Substack for 3 years, where I sort of thought, this is all I can say about this, and I don't feel like I'm any closer to anything in terms of a campaign or something that I'm seeing within any sort of grouping that is getting anywhere. And I'm really sorry to talk about, maybe some of the organizations out there. I don't want to pick anyone out on here because that just seems mean. But you can pretty much go with any recognizable pro-European organization in Britain. And I don't understand what they're doing. I couldn't even tell you what they're doing. It's not even a case of I could pick out what they're doing wrong and what they're doing right. I just don't understand at all what they're doing. It just seems completely random and odd to me. So yeah, and I really feel like one of the problems I think that always comes back to with the Brexit stuff is, to me, Brexit is not a right or left issue, although it has become essentially a property of the left. And I think that is a real issue. I think, one, because it makes it very difficult for anyone who's even vaguely right of center to talk about Brexit and sort of closes off Brexit from discussion on the right in Britain. But also, I think the problem is the left sort of treat it a little bit like it's on the buffet of things, and maybe we might talk about it one day if we didn't want to talk about, I don't know, something else that was left-wing that was more important to them at the time. And really, if you really want to rejoin the EU, and I'll be brutally blunt about this, you're going to need to, frankly, you're going to need to get some of the right involved. You're going to need some Tories. You're going to need some people who are on who definably their politics are centre-right or even on the right, who want to rejoin the EU. Or at least want to rejoin the single market, or at least want to open up the discussion. I think until that happens, we are getting nowhere. And I know that's probably a hard thing for people on the left to hear, because what they want is I think partially what they like about the whole thing is they feel quite good about themselves. They feel like there's a moral cause. I look at it in a completely different way. I think actually most of the best arguments for rejoining the EU are essentially centre-right arguments when you boil it down. It's about business, it's about trade, it's about flow of goods, it's about less red tape, it's about less bureaucracy. Those are all fairly strong centre-right arguments. And I don't think they're being voiced. I mean, I'm trying to get them out there to some extent, but I sort of do feel like I'm standing alone when I'm doing that. And so that's why I did neoliberal centrist dad. I pivoted to that because I really felt like I couldn't really keep doing it. I couldn't really keep just, plugging the line in the hopes that it's, there's that line from the movie Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. And I sort of felt like I built it and they didn't come. And actually, we feel further away than ever from rejoining. Anyway, I sort of said my piece on that. I wanted to get that out of the way. A lot of people have been asking me about it, and that's what I have to say about rejoining the EU and whether it will happen or not. I throw it to you. The organization isn't there, and are you going to be willing to, speak to Tories and right-wing people and people that you probably disagree with on a whole bunch of stuff, but you probably agree with on Europe? So the ball is in your court, folks.